Hello and welcome to another episode of Hashtag Burning Questions, aka the Diversity Club, as you guys are saying. Jokes. Okay, guys. So today we are discussing a very interesting code card, and yeah, I'll just like to say you guys can be free. Say what you want to say. This is a free space. So, guys, our code card this week comes from Phumlazi Majozi, and it reads: BEE must be scraped. We mustn't have more of it. That's if we are serious about fixing South Africa. Guys, I think this is very straightforward. I'm gonna go straight to the comments unless there's someone who wants to say something about this particular statement.
Well, well, I would say that I completely agree with what Pumlani says. Part of the
Mm,
problem that BEE has created is that we find many people in SOEs, in departments, and stuff of that nature, employees of departments, employees of SOEs, who were hired on the basis of their race as opposed to being hired on the basis of their merit. And as a result of that, the South African administration is failing. Now, in order for the South African administration to excel, we need to go back to a merit system whereby we prioritize people's merits, what they have to offer, their skills before anything else, and hire people based simply on that. But this thing of hiring people as a form of empowerment because previously we were disadvantaged and all of that, the intentions are understood, but the
mm,
consequences, unfortunately, is that we have a failing administration for the most part because we have a lot of incompetent people hired on the basis of an empowerment program, and yeah,
mm.
it's really causing many problems for us. So we have problems in politics, but we have even deeper problems at the administration level caused by
Yeah.
BEE.
Yeah, definitely. With that said, let's go right straight into the first comment. This comment is from Ivon Daba, and he's very, yeah, let's go. One day we'll know who is using you, Phumlazi Majozi, because it's clear that you're working for white monopoly. It can't be a black person who's taking out what is designed to uplift black people. Surely someone white is behind you. Yeah, I think Mr. Ndava lost his plot a bit, but let's go. Sholin, you can go first.
Yeah, I have to say, one of the most racist things you could possibly say is that just because a black person does not think like you, they
Mm,
must, for some reason, be controlled by the boogeyman white man in the background.
bro.
Because I mean, Phumlani is by far one of the most brilliant thinkers in South African politics. Why
Mm,
he's not a politician, I don't understand. And maybe that's why he's such a brilliant thinker, actually.
yeah.
But yeah, he's really such a free thinker, and his ideas around BE and the free market economy is so into like it's so in depth that I feel like we should be listening more to the Phumlani Majozis of South
Mm,
Africa. And I feel
yeah.
like he breaks a barrier to say that, you know what, people believing that, you know what, you should have the freedom to earn the way you want, you should have the freedom to learn how and where you would like to. Just
Mm,
because people think that does not mean that they are controlled by whatever the boogeyman you want to create behind the
yeah.
scenes. He
Yeah.
is actually advocating for the freedom of people, and that should
Yeah.
not be controversial because it's like saying that just that not believing in freedom is some sort of controversial thing when it's
Mm,
such an essence of humans to want freedom.
yeah.
So I feel, yeah, Mpumani is absolutely correct with the fact that we should scrap EE.
Yeah, and I think with what Ivor is saying, he's basically saying black people aren't actually allowed to have such ideas. Black people aren't allowed to have such thoughts, which is very dangerous. I think people
And
like him are
that's
those who say who say we're the clever blacks. The minute you start speaking about the
mm,
economy, you start sharing your politics. It's like,
Mm.
oh, you are the clever black, Mr. Alex. What do you
mm,
think?
Yeah, I think the one thing is, I mean, yeah, 100%. I think there's nothing more demeaning than the sort of clever blacks coconut argument.
Mm,
But my one comment, I have two comments. The one is judge a policy on its outcomes, not its intention. Has BE worked? No. Cool. Get rid of it. Replace it with something that works. If you want to uplift black people, grow the economy. You don't do that with BEE. You do that with an economy that grows. You do that when people are in work. We have almost 50% of adults without a job.
Yeah.
That will uplift everybody as well as black people in the process. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents worth.
Yeah. Okay. And let us go to the second comment. This one is from Smooth David, and I don't really understand it. Maybe you guys can help me out. So it reads: so you want to tell me that we need to be equal to people who already have or have had the money while we have nothing. Uyanya. Uyanya is a very I'm not gonna translate. So the people he's talking about here, I would like to assume that he's talking about white people. I don't know if I'm correct. Diego, I'll give this one to you. What do you think about Smooth's response to this code card?
Well, I think Sbu must stop being a lazy thinker. No, he first and foremost, he's making assumptions, right? He's assuming that by saying that we should scrap BE, we are then saying that there should be no form of empowerment. But
Yeah,
that's not what's been said. So really, Sbu must stop being a lazy thinker. Start thinking critically about these matters, understand that someone wouldn't just say such a thing. He must at least try and go read up on this person, go and read up Pumlani's work, what his argument is, and yeah, he can't make such a judgment based just on a code. And I'm
yeah,
sorry for not. Yeah, I'm sorry for being all over the place, but really, I think these comments are quite insane, and they really point to people who are simply lazy to think and people who jump to conclusions without understanding what's being said first, and people who are more interested in dealing with someone's character over
yeah,
the content that's being put forward. I mean,
yeah,
Phumlani makes a suggestion or says that we must scrap away BEE so South Africa can move forward.
yeah,
Instead of engaging what Phumlani puts forward, they attack his character. I think it's
yeah.
nonsensical, and I think it's something that shouldn't be tolerated.
Yeah, definitely. Alex, I think you mentioned that if BE office is not working, it must get scraped and we must replace it with something that will work. What do you think we should replace BEE with?
Yeah, so I think ultimately a program that doesn't use race as a criteria for empowerment. So the
Yeah.
Institute of Race Relations have come up with a policy called EED, which stands for Empowerment of the Economically Disadvantaged. So that takes so now if we talk about like what is Boo and Ivor want is to uplift people, then we need to uplift those who have less. And
Yeah.
ultimately, what you want to do is reduce poverty, and EED does that through empowering. If, for example, B legislation says you must have X amount of people of a certain race, EED would say you need to have a certain amount of people whose household earns less than 20,000 rand in a month or whatever it is. Those kind of things, those kind of incentives to businesses to really empower people, but still not taking away the idea of merit. You want to give people opportunities
Yeah.
who then can take their families out of poverty.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sholin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a lot. I just want to add a last point, which is that the insulting part I also find about the comments is that there has this assumption that all black people are poor, helpless, and waiting for a government handout. Like that is the um, most insulting idea that these comments actually present. Because what we
Yeah.
actually see is that the like policies like BE, although it sounds nice named Black Economic Empowerment, what it actually only does is enrich a small, connected, politically connected elite who are, connected to the likes of the ANC leaders and those in government departments. That's what actually benefits. So if we
Yeah.
actually want to say who does BE actually hurt the most, it's actually the truly disadvantaged,
Yeah.
poor black individuals that
Yeah.
actually unfortunately exist in South Africa due to government policy.
Yeah, no, definitely. I hope
Mm.
Mr. Ndava heard that. We are not uplifting any ordinary
Yes.
black person.
Ali, can I just crash your vibe here? But I think the one
True.
thing is that what that can also lead to, like in the example Tiago has cited, you can apply the same diversity criteria to a position. Like when I applied for jobs leaving varsity, some jobs you just knew like there's no point applying for this. There's a very
Oh,
strong like transformation agenda here.
mm,
Now the problem is that South Africa competes with the rest of the world. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Tioko's friend ends up in going working on a mine in Australia or somewhere else where they will take someone because he was the best. And that's
mm,
everyone loses when you
yeah,
undermine merit. Everyone
yeah,
loses.
that is true. That
And
is definitely true.
the other thing, when the whole BEE thing started, it benefited
Mhm,
politicians, but most of the politicians that it benefited, if you look at them, really, it's people who, even during apartheid, yes, apartheid was bad, yes, apartheid discriminated against black people, but the reality of the matter is that even during apartheid, black people had different economic classes, right?
mm,
Even during apartheid, you had black people who were absolutely poor, black people who were
mhm,
poor, black people who were of the middle class, people, black people who were of the upper class. Now, someone like Dr. Mampila Rampele, who whose parents, the father was a principal, I think the
mhm,
mother was a teacher, if I remember correctly, from the her books that I've read before. The mother
mhm,
was a teacher, the father was a principal. Now, yes, she's black, but when the empowerment system came in, it empowered people such as Dr. Mampela Rampela first,
mm,
whereas the whole intention of the thing was that it must first and foremost empower people in shacks, empower people in
yeah,
mud houses,
yeah,
empower people who still have to go to schools with pig toilets and everything. So from the very start of this policy, it has
mm,
never, although its intentions are right, from the very
yeah,
start, it has never succeeded. It has empowered the wrong people, and
mm,
that's why we are calling for it to be scrapped. And now we are calling for an empowerment system that focuses on class, that
yeah,
empowers people on the basis of class. We know that the
yeah,
poorest of the poor are the people we need to empower. Those are the people who are struggling the most. It's not
mhm,
their skin color that makes them poor. Skin
yeah,
color is not a proxy. Skin color is not a proxy for your economic standing, right?
mm,
And that is the very argument we're making here, and that's why it makes me so upset for someone to come and throw shade at someone like
yeah,
Phumlazi when they make such an argument and say that there's a white person standing behind them. No, 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 no. These are issues
true.
that
Mm,
are in fact affecting the poorest of the poor, majority of whom happen to be black. And
yeah.
those are the people that people like Pumlani, like myself, like Alex, like Sholen, like yourself are speaking for when we do want these policies to be scrapped.
Yeah, no, definitely. Preach, Mr. Diego. I don't know whether you're still a Sangoma or you're a pastor. I don't know which one. I heard the previous show, I heard that you're a bit of a. Anyway, guys, let's go to our last comment. And this one comes from Pet Heads, and it reads, and the majority of South Africans sees nothing wrong with it. People need to see life through the eyes of an economist, not this nonsense sung by ANC and EFF dumb cases with aspirations of socialist and communism. Finally, I think someone who speaks some sense. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Sholan, you can go first.
Yeah, I'll be short. I agree with Shibeko. That you know what, a majority of South Africans do not benefit from BE, unfortunately, as we've mentioned
Mm,
multiple times now. And I'm like, we really have to see that the biggest beneficiaries are the ANC, and if there's a reason why they are so happy with keeping it in place and wanting it
yep.
implemented, amended, and extended,
Mm,
because eventually it takes them to a more socialist society in South Africa, where the state controls the economy and the state is supposedly the center of life, economic or social. And we know that that does not work. Throughout the world, we've had a lot of examples that free market economies with limited governments and we respect human rights, those are countries that thrive. But socialist and communist regimes continue to fall. And that's why we see that it does simply not work. Yambali.
it honestly does not work. Alex, your last thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts are that just in these three comments, I would assume that, like, going on the assumption that they are all people of color, shows that you get diversity of thought. So why would you
Yep.
apply a policy to people when you're looking to empower people based on race? And the thing is that, as Sholin says, this Petetso does reference socialism, communism. The guy in the comment before said, "Oh, why are we looking for equality when people had an advantage?" We're not looking for equality. We're looking for opportunities, and that's what a free society enables people to do. So yeah, I'm definitely side with that last comment. But I think this is the kind of thing. This kind of drills into what we were also discussing in Freedom Fanatics, is the idea of look at the symptoms and the causes. The
Yeah.
causes is this ideology of socialism, of communism, that is at the heart of the NDR, which guides the governing party, the ANC. And so then these are kind of things that people need to be thinking about. But these are only possible when we have discussions and a free market of ideas to talk about these
Yeah.
things and to push back, and as we have done, just what we think are bad ideas based on the merits of the argument.
Yeah, no, definitely. Mr. Diego, final thoughts?
Ordinarily I would agree with the last comment that people need to start thinking like economists. But then I remembered that I studied economics at Rhodes, and one of the economics lecturers there is basically a socialist who's teaching every economics student socialism. His name is David Fryer. His PhD thesis was rejected, and he's now basically teaching that very thesis. It's really a Marxist thesis. That thing he's teaching it as an economics module, something that was rejected. So I wouldn't advise the young to really listen to economists, but we must really start thinking thoroughly around policies, whichever policy we like Alex has mentioned. What matters as far as policies are concerned would be the outcome of the policy over what the intentions of it are. So people should really start thinking about the outcomes of these policies, even though the intention of BE, for example, might have been good, which I suspect is not good. I'm beginning to have these suspicions. I'm beginning to have this suspicion. I'm beginning to be suspicious that actually the African National Congress, even when they were fighting apartheid, the fight was never to build a fair and a fair society, but for them to step into that place and be the ones who are benefiting from it. I'm becoming convinced that that is the case. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that the intention Vele was to empower people. The intention
Yeah.
was good. Then the intentions were good and everything. Unfortunately, intentions don't give us policy outcomes.
Yeah.
Policy outcomes come out of what's practical. We should start thinking about practical solutions to our problems, and stop with this whole thing of wanting to sound clever, even in cases that we mustn't be sounding clever. Sure.
Hectic. Guys, I think we've come to the end of our show. Thank you so much, Alex, Diego, and Sholin. Yeah, we'll catch you guys next week. Same time, same place. And yeah, goodbye.